Coming up on Now See This. In sprint car racing, wrecks are far from rare. But one driver gets cooked. Well done. Bad boys on the run do a quick inventory.
He's checking the wheels, it looks like.
Only to lose traction and their chance at escape. And when a stunt flyer crashes in the middle of an air show, it could be his grand finale.
You do not expect to see him walk away from that.
There's wrestling, rescuing, and running. Think you've seen it all? Now see this. 4 adults and 1 infant are at the mercy of Indiana's White River, perched on the edge of disaster. Minutes ago, Kim and Kirk Metters and their 14-month-old son, Elias, were taking a pleasure cruise.
We were just out for a leisurely Sunday afternoon boat ride with our new friends.
Just take a laid-back boat ride. Probably never got over 5 miles an hour, just sightseeing and taking it in.
But just 100 yards from where people boat and kayak is a hidden danger, a low-head dam. Usually the water trickles over it. But after a week of rain, it's a raging cascade. The Metters and their friends found themselves getting too close to this man-made waterfall, and that's when the unthinkable happened.
The motor prop started hitting rocks and real big grinding noise, and it instantly killed the motor.
The good news is the ski boat didn't roll or flip. The bad news, it is now wedged at a precarious 60-degree angle. Everyone is terrified, but they struggle to remain calm and still, knowing any small shift could cause a big fall, so they measure every breath and hold their positions as they wait for the fire department to respond.
We get in a wetsuit with this, that way I can float, jump in there and try to float.
The Metters assume they are about to be rescued, but they aren't.
And the fire department had tried several different attempts to rescue us with a boom ladder from a truck. From above, they'd tried to bring a boat close to the edge of the dam when it was just too strong of a current.
All the firemen can do is deliver life vests and pray none of the victims end up in the river. Just below the falls is an area of churning recycling water that experts call the drowning machine. Even with a life vest on, a strong swimmer would be lucky to make it through. Little Elias would never stand a chance. Realizing there's no way to make a rescue from the water, the firemen called the state police helicopter rescue team.
My heart just kind of sunk in my throat. I'd never seen a boat positioned like that on a low-head dam. And I was surprised and kind of bewildered.
I couldn't believe it initially, and I thought, well, we've never plucked people out of a boat over a dam before. I said, this is going to be kind of a first for us.
Sergeants Chip Sunier and John Kelly have worked together for years, but today, teamwork will be at a premium. They're dealing with raging water, swirling winds, and the unpredictability of human behavior.
We had to make sure that the adults weren't going to grab a hold of the skid. Some people get panicky and you don't know what they're going to do, and we didn't want everybody grabbing on to the skid at one time.
Another concern, the closer they get, the more the chopper's rotor wash buffets the teetering vessel.
We've never trained for a boat that was in that kind of a position. I was very concerned that I was going to make the situation worse rather than better.
With this in mind, the chopper inches toward the stranded craft. Within reach of the boat, Chip Sunier wants to rescue the child first, but Kim's maternal instincts complicate things. She tries to wedge herself and the child into the rescue harness. It's only designed for one person. Her weight could crush the little boy if they were lifted together. But Kirk sees what needs to be done. He takes his son and does the hardest thing in the world for a father. He lifts his child up, entrusting his life to the hands of a stranger.
If the father had let go of it too early, and if Chip didn't have a good enough grasp on it, we would have lost the child.
Once I had the baby in my arms, I told John, I said, let's get out of here.
Determined to stay with her son, Kim straps herself into the harness and is airlifted away. Everyone breathes a sigh of relief, but the ones left behind are still in danger.
As each person came out of the boat, it might change the center of gravity of the boat, and it might alter whether the boat tips over or not.
The craft shudders and shifts, but never falls, and within minutes, everyone is safely on the ground. The father sustains a minor back injury. The others are shaken, but fine. The 3-hour ordeal is over, but the bond between these one-time strangers has just begun.
We just kind of picked up another family, really.
We had them over for Christmas dinner, and they're great friends almost. You know, we talk on the phone and kind of an extended family.
Good.
And as it turns out, it's an extended family that will be growing.
Thank you.
Thanks to the rescuers' efforts.
At the time, we knew that Sarah was pregnant, and I realized a month or so later that I was also pregnant while we were on the boat. So they actually saved 7, I guess, instead of 5 of us.
Sprint car racing. You have a better chance of getting killed than getting rich or famous. But the racers still have a fiery passion for their sport.
I love racing, and this is my only hobby.
The money is low, but the stakes are high as they fly around these dirt tracks at up to 150 miles per hour.
And a major crash. Helping to work on the car.
Oh, and we get her upside down.
Front straightaway into
It's also expensive.
tire shredded.
That's why you need sponsors. Racer Steve Furman in car number 30 has financial backers, although their name doesn't necessarily inspire confidence.
All my support comes from my family. As you can see, the Fairman Mortuary is one of my sponsors.
Between embalmings, Steve's father got him into the sport at age 12 and taught him the skills to compete and survive.
My dad always insisted on being prepared for any type of crash. When I was younger, he always made sure that I knew what to do.
Tonight, Steve will put those skills to the test and try to avoid becoming a customer of the family business. The racers get the caution flag soon after starting, but when they're back on pace, a broken fuel line drenches Steve with methanol, and all it takes is a spark.
And on the back straightaway, fire erupts on the 30F of Steve Furman, and he quickly gets out of the car on fire. Red flag needed.
When I decelerated, I felt fuel come around me, and I knew I was in trouble.
Steve becomes a human fireball. He's out of the inferno in under 5 seconds. He knows if he stays inside any longer, he'll be overwhelmed by the flames and burnt to a crisp.
I've wrecked, say, 20 times in my career, flipping through the air and crashing hard onto the ground, but definitely a fire is the scariest situation to be in.
Steve got away with minor burns on his chin and the back of his neck. He's back to racing, but the incident earned him a nickname that he can't shake: Steve Fireball Furman. Flash to his friends.
And on the back straightaway, fire erupts on the 30F of Steve Furman.
Two underage gang members are on the run from the LAPD. But don't worry, they know what they're doing.
It all started in the Hollenbeck division. An officer from the gang unit tried to pull this car over.
But they didn't pull over, and for 2 good reasons. 1, the car is stolen. And 2, these boys think they have the street smarts to get away.
The suspect is driving with just careless abandon.
Both suspects may be under 18, but they've spent much of their lives avoiding the cops. They run with the lights off, knowing that in a dark neighborhood, they could disappear if the police chopper's spotlight loses them. And red lights are no problem. After all, the LAPD always tries to block cross traffic during a pursuit.
He is not stopping for red lights.
The teen terror behind the wheel doesn't think twice about taking chances as he buzzes by unsuspecting pedestrians and cuts off other drivers.
It's almost as if he's trying to cause a collision.
Meanwhile, his partner in crime is so confident, he's performing for police on the ground and in the air.
We don't know if he's flashing gang signs, or if he's waving to the police helicopter, or if he's taunting police.
When traffic does get in the way of these cocky kids, they either do a little urban off-roading or take a more dangerous detour.
He's gone on the wrong side of the road, and those folks who are coming the other way, he came head-on with those folks who were trying to get by.
And why are they so brazen? They know the LAPD's pursuit policy doesn't let them use their cars to ram a fleeing vehicle. So the suspects don't even flinch as they motor past any police cruiser in their path. And when the cops seem to back off, the boys get suspicious, realizing the cops may try to blow their tires out with spike strips. They check their radials by hand.
Now he's checking the wheels, it looks like.
With 4 solid tires and a car full of swagger, the bad boys hit the road again, convinced that they're going to get away. They aren't even shaken when a mile-long freight train causes a detour.
You can see the train, so he's going to be stuck.
Rerouting on the fly, the driver heads to a new neighborhood and likes the results.
The LAPD is backing off.
Could these homeboys be home free? No chance.
Hard on the brakes now. You can see the officer on one side of the car.
Suddenly, a cruiser races up and rams the white sedan. Could this be one rogue cop who refuses to back down? The boys don't stick around to find out. They hit the gas. Suddenly running scared, the suspects lose their cool and then lose control. With a look of utter surprise on their faces, the suspects look up to see they are surrounded. This wasn't the way it was supposed to go. So what changed? It turns out the detour they took brought them into the city of Monterey Park. And what these know-it-all suspects didn't know is that the Monterey Park police are a bit more aggressive when it comes to ending pursuits. So as these young punks head to jail, it finally dawns on them. They have a lot to learn. On the coast of Uruguay, a bizarre gathering is taking place, and it's no beach party. A pod of 43 whales known as false orcas has become beached on the shore. No one knows why they're here. They could be sick, or maybe they just took a wrong turn. As night falls, one thing is certain. If these whales don't get back out to sea soon, they will die. In an unprecedented joint operation, scientists, firemen, and every branch of Uruguay's military contribute to a rescue effort that lasts all night, into the day. It's a veritable meeting of the mammals as the two-legged land creatures roll their flippered distant cousins away from the shoreline. But there's a hitch. Many of these false orcas weigh in at nearly 2 tons. Far too heavy to move by hand. The clock is ticking, and the whales are losing strength. The rescuers need some help from above, and they get it. In the form of an Air Force helicopter. The whales are strapped into a giant harness, which is hooked to a cable dangling from the belly of the copter. The signal is given, and the pilot tries to raise the whale. But even the helicopter strains from the weight. At last, the creature is raised. The whales are airlifted 500 meters offshore. They must be a confusing sight to the seagulls in the area. Finally, the whales are plunged back into familiar waters, where scientists believe they can get back on track to their destination. The entire operation lasts 16 hours, and by the end, the rescuers have their system down. For the false orcas, hitting the beach in Uruguay could have been a disastrous side trip. Instead, they were returned home with first-class treatment, not to mention a nice tan. A security camera catches kids calmly flipping through magazines at a convenience store in Florida. But the calm stops here. A thug busts his way in, points a pistol in the cashier's face, and demands all the store's money. But this bandit has no clue he's messing with a former cop turned cashier.
The only thing that went through my mind was, he can't do this to me.
The thief threatens to kill James if he doesn't hand over the cash, but James isn't budging.
After a few seconds of him standing there waiting for me to open the register, and I wasn't moving, so he came around to my side of the register.
James should be shaking in his boots, but his prior police training tells him the gun is a fake.
I just stood there and looked at him like, you know, what kind of idiot do you think I am?
The robber has had enough of his attitude. He grabs the register, which is still plugged in, and bolts for the door. But this funny game of cat and mouse is about to get scary. A woman headed for the store becomes part of the struggle. James chases the robber out with a bat, and the woman gets tangled between the two. She slows down James, but he manages to get the guy's license number, and cops are able to catch the crook within an hour.
I mean, I started thinking about, well, maybe it's time to find another line of work.
He should have listened to his gut. Almost 2 years later, lightning strikes again. James is helping a customer in the back of the store.
I heard somebody enter the door, and he was walking over toward the freezer section.
A man secretly armed with a .380 automatic begins casing the joint, and it's only seconds before James's police instincts kick in.
So I started walking back up to the front to go behind my counter, and the woman I'd been speaking to was leaving.
The woman bails, and the bad guy jumps James. He fires a shot into the ceiling and orders the register open. This time, the ex-cop quickly complies.
Now, when I opened the register, he took all of his attention off of me and reached for the cash register with both hands.
The gunman is so focused on the money, James is able to catch a glimpse of the gun, which he notices is out of ammo.
And I noticed that the slide was locked back. Now, on an automatic, when the slide is locked back, the gun is empty. So when I realized it was empty, the same thing went through my mind that happened the first time. He can't do this to me.
James tackles him and the thief tries to pull the trigger, but nothing happens.
He thought it was still loaded and he thought he was going to kill me.
The robber runs for it and accidentally drops his gun. But when he notices James going back for a bat, the guy is able to grab his gun and disappear. Police are still studying the tape for leads. The handling of both incidents went against store policy, so it's probably best that after the second skirmish, James left cashiering to work in the security industry.
I'm just one of these people that reacts to the situation at the time.
It's a clear day in the skies over Salinas, California. Thousands of fans gather to see breathtaking precision maneuvers, aerial acrobatics, and some of the world's best stunt flyers. But even with these seemingly death-defying feats, in 19 years, the California International Air Show has never had a single mishap. Until today. The crowd will have to witness something they hoped never to see. The man inside this super-powered turboprop is Wayne Handley, a grandfather and former fighter jock who's never been able to give up his need for speed, even if it means risking his life. The plane Wayne is flying today is so light it can take off in a few feet, go straight up, and stop on a dime. He's done this same maneuver many times before. Today will be different.
From about 2,000 feet, he drops down at over a 70-degree angle of descent, ladies and gentlemen.
But suddenly, the engine flames out. Wayne doesn't have the power to pull out of the dive. Rescue teams race to the scene. Medics are stunned to find they don't need a body bag. They need a stretcher. Even more amazing, in a month, Wayne Handley will be out of the hospital.
When you see an air show performer have an accident, you do not expect to see him walk away from that.
Within weeks, Wayne is out on the tarmac, preparing to fly again as he recalls the moment that nearly ended his life.
I was desperately trying to bring the nose of the airplane up, and I was able to do that.
It made all the difference. A nose-first crash would have killed him instantly. But by pulling up just a few degrees, he lands belly first, using the plane as a safety net. The impact is estimated to be as much as 26 Gs. That's like getting hit head-on by a 2-ton truck. Only the slightest bit more would have been fatal.
It's a medical fact. My aorta would normally tear loose at about 28 to 30 Gs.
Watch again as he bounces out of the seat and slams back down.
I come out of the seat probably 3 to 4 feet. I think that's where a lot of this damage happened.
But if he had been thrown from the plane, rescuers would have been scraping Wayne off the tarmac.
I broke my vertebrae L2. In fact, it was used for parts. My sternum was broken, and my ribs broke parallel to my spine.
These injuries would send most men to the retirement home, but not Wayne.
I am still flying. In fact, I was able to start flying again within just slightly, I guess, over a month.
Wayne Handley defied the medical odds, just as he once defied gravity.
There isn't anything that I can't do because of my back. So I'm one of the luckiest guys around. I have no pain.
But no pain doesn't mean his life is back to normal. The crash compressed his spine and smashed a vertebra so badly, it had to be removed, leaving him 3 inches shorter.
I can't stand to sit at the dinner table and look up at my wife, so I actually sit on a cushion just so I can look at Karen eyeball to eyeball.
Wayne has kept his sense of humor, but he had to give up something he loves: performing.
I crashed in front of the hometown crowd. My family, grandchildren, friends, put a lot of hurt on a lot of people. So I retired after the accident from airshow flying, and what I'm doing now is I'm coaching competition and aerobatic airshow performers.
He continues to put his experience to good use as one of the industry's staunchest advocates for better safety. So this won't happen to any other pilot. No matter how bad the odds, no matter how great the risk, if a crook's got feet, he's looking to run. In Anaheim, California, a robbery suspect blazes down crowded freeways at over 100 miles an hour.
This guy is just flying.
He bails down an off-ramp, barely slowing down. When he makes his final turn onto the street, he's stuck. There's nowhere left to run. But that doesn't stop him.
Okay, he's running. The suspect is running.
This guy could be a track star, but the fact is, he's running home, and police know it.
He has about a 30-yard lead on just about any officer. He's running, and it looks like he's taking a right down this little alley, and it's about to open up. He seems to know where he's going.
Despite the helicopter tracking his every move, the suspect tries to hide under a car in his own driveway. It's a foolish waste of time.
They see him. They've got him under that car, and it looks like they're struggling with him under the car. Okay, now they got him. Code 4, he is in custody.
Now this guy has some real explaining to do. Not just about some robberies, but about a high-speed chase with a desperate and useless final move. In Cocoa Beach, Florida, police face an even more desperate criminal. This man, Christopher Watson, was just caught in the act during a string of armed robberies. He came out of this convenience store with a taser and a fistful of cash, and found police waiting with rifles and a canine. For a moment, it looks like Watson might actually cooperate, but with this much evidence against him, he feels like the trial is already over, and he doesn't want to stick around for the sentencing. The canine takes the lead, snagging Watson from behind and taking him down before he can use his taser. Officers swarm in and quickly subdue him. The trial will happen after all, and Watson's frantic last move only brought him an extra 5 seconds of freedom. In Des Moines, Iowa, police and fire rescue personnel want to avoid a similar confrontation with this man, a known criminal named Ellis Parker. Parker was in the middle of a 10-year sentence for third-degree sexual abuse when he escaped from his work release program. He was found banging on the windows of a woman's house. Police don't know what he was planning, but they're not giving him a chance to see it through. Parker is completely surrounded by 6 officers, but that won't stop a man who has unfinished plans for his day off. Parker gets into the clear and races down the sidewalk. Officers pursue, and this time, there's no canine to help make the quick takedown. But as Parker darts into the street, he sees officers closing in. He screams in panic. One last swerve onto the sidewalk and police are on him. Parker goes down. A snap of the cuffs and he's under control and heading back to jail. The lesson is clear. Whether because of something they've done, something they're doing, or something they're planning to do, a foot chase is the last desperate act of a criminal who has run out of time.